The old house stood alone, a silent sentinel on the hill, its once grand facade now crumbled and decayed, a ghost of its former self. At the edge of town, it was surrounded by darkness. The garden, once meticulously maintained, was now a wild, overgrown jungle. The wind howled like a mournful cry, echoing through the empty halls and rattling the broken windows. Leaves crunched under unseen feet, as if the ghosts of the past were still wandering the grounds. An owl hooted, twice, a warning perhaps to those who dared to venture too close. The house creaked, a low groan that seemed to come from deep within its bones, as if it were alive and in pain. A shudder ran down its spine, or maybe it was just the wind, whispering secrets of the past. Dusk settled like a shroud, enveloping the house in a cloak of shadows. The house on Harbinger Lane held its breath, waiting. For what? No one knew, but the air was thick with anticipation.
The door creaked open as if inviting the brave or the foolish to step inside and uncover its secrets.
Claire gripped the iron gate. Cold. Final. She pushed it open. The hinges screamed. She stepped onto the overgrown path. Her heart pounded. Sarah, her best friend, gone, vanished. A note, left behind, the house on the hill. Don't follow. But Claire had to, for Sarah. Dust. Silence. The air inside was thick, heavy. Claire walked slowly, her footsteps barely audible over the creaking wooden floor. The house seemed to breathe with her, each inhale and exhale a whisper of its past. She could almost feel the weight of the years pressing down on her shoulders, the memories of those who had walked these halls before her, each step echoing. Shadows danced, playing tricks on her eyes. The flickering light cast eerie shapes on the walls, making it hard to distinguish reality from illusion. She felt a chill run down her spine, as if unseen eyes were watching her every move. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, each shadow a potential threat. She saw a shape in the darkness, but when she turned, it was gone. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest like a drum. Was it just her imagination, or was there really someone or something lurking in the shadows? She couldn't shake the feeling of being followed, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. A symbol, scratched on the wall, a circle with a dot in the center. It looked ancient, almost ritualistic. Claire traced it with her fingers, feeling the rough edges of the carving. It was familiar, yet she couldn't place where she had seen it before. The symbol seemed to pulse with a hidden energy, drawing her in. She'd seen it before. On the note Sarah left. What did it mean? The cryptic message had haunted her ever since she found it. The words a puzzle she couldn't solve. Sarah had been so secretive, and now Claire was beginning to understand why. The symbol was a key, but to what? Fear crawled up her throat, choking her. She struggled to breathe, her mind racing with possibilities. What if she was next? What if the same fate that befell Sarah was waiting for her? The fear was paralyzing, but she knew she had to keep moving, had to find answers before it was too late.
The house seemed to close in around her, its secrets pressing in from all sides. Every creak, every whisper of wind through the broken windows felt like a warning. Claire knew she was running out of time. She had to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. The basement door creaked open.
A musty smell wafted up like death.
Claire's hand trembled as she held the flashlight.
The steps groaned under her weight.
She descended into the darkness.
Claire.
Her name spoken softly but clearly. She whirled around, and there in the dim light stood Sarah, pale, ghostly.
Help me,
Sarah whispered, her voice a hollow echo. Claire rushed to her friend, reached out, but Sarah faded like smoke. Her fingers grasped at the air, desperation etched on her face. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls pulsating with a sinister energy. Claire's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the loss of her friend. She could feel the coldness creeping in, a chill that went straight to her bones.
An icy hand clamped over Claire's mouth, stifling her scream. The touch was like death itself, freezing her voice in her throat. She tried to pull away, but the grip was unyielding, as if the very shadows had come to life to silence her. The darkness around her seemed to grow thicker, more oppressive, as if feeding off her fear.
She struggled, kicking, fighting, but it was no use. The unseen force was too strong, dragging her deeper into the abyss. Her mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none. The The darkness was alive, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Every movement seemed to drain her strength, leaving her weaker and more vulnerable. She was dragged backwards into the darkness. The shadows swallowed her whole, leaving no trace of her presence. The last thing she saw was the faint glimmer of her flashlight, a beacon of hope that was quickly extinguished. The darkness was absolute, a void that consumed everything in its path. Her flashlight fell, casting flickering shadows on the wall. The light danced erratically, creating monstrous shapes that seemed to mock her plight. Each flicker was a reminder of her fading hope, a cruel taunt from the darkness that had claimed her. The shadows seemed to whisper, their voices a cacophony of despair. A list of names scratched into the stone. Each name told a story of lost souls, trapped forever in the house's malevolent grip. The names were a testament to the house's insatiable hunger, a record of its countless victims. The stone was cold to the touch, a chilling reminder of the fate that awaited those who entered, and at the bottom, freshly carved Claire. Her name stood out, a stark reminder of her impending doom. The carving was fresh, the edges sharp, as if the stone itself had eagerly accepted her fate. Claire's heart sank as she realized she was now part of the house's macabre collection.
Another soul claimed. The house's hunger was momentarily sated, but it would not be long before it sought out its next victim. The shadows seemed to pulse with satisfaction, their dark tendrils retreating into the corners of the room. The air was thick with the scent of fear, a lingering reminder of the house's power.
The house sighed, content. The house on Harbinger Lane held its breath no more. It had feasted. The windows glowed with a sinister light, as if the very soul of the house was alive. The mist that surrounded it seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a living shroud that concealed the horrors within. The house was a predator, always waiting, always hungry.